In the previous video, we saw that Ryuma, a normal corporate worker from modern-day Japan, gets reincarnated into a new world of magic and mystery, where he befriends the gods and starts living in the forests. One day, he ends up running into the Duke of the area and becomes friends with their entire family, especially their daughter, Elia. He spends some time traveling with them and finally settles into a new town, where he starts making a bunch of friends, thanks to his amiable personality and positive attitude. He helps the town get rid of the poisonous gas coming from the communal toilets and also helps clear up the abandoned men shafts, which helps him gain even more love and support from the people living in the area. Finally, he ends up starting his own laundry business, which he names the Bamboo Forest, and becomes very successful very soon. The laundry business has been going extremely well, and now he has hired even more people to help him operate it. One day he comes back from the mines, and as usual, his entire shop is full of customers, and the staff seem to be operating it well. He greets every single one of them as a sign of courtesy, and after the peak hours are done, Carla, one of the assistant managers, asks for a personal meeting with him, which he agrees to. They both go inside a room, and Carla starts by saying that she thinks Ryuma should come to the shop late every single day. He is shocked at this statement and replies that the shop is most crowded in the mornings, and Carla tells him that whenever he comes in the morning and the shop is crowded, he almost ends up doing everything alone, and the other employees who have been hired to work are unable to learn anything or get much experience. He understands her point of view and agrees to come late every single day. After that topic ends, she starts initiating another conversation about the future of their shop, but suddenly they are interrupted by a bunch of people talking and laughing from the front of the shop. Both Carla and Ryuma rush to the front desk and find out that Lai has tied two strange men together. He arrives at the mines with his sticky slimes and enters deep into the mine shaft to experiment with them. He takes out a wooden box and asks the sticky slime to release their solution inside the box, and then he extracts all the moisture from it, creating a hardened mass. He uses the same technique multiple times before mastering it and finally creating a glass pane. He picks it up and uses his powerful punch to test its strength. Even his magic-reinforced punches could not do anything to the glass pane. He then asks the sticky slimes to produce as many glass panes as possible, and after a day of hard work, he is able to create a bunch of panes and packs them up to take them back to his shop. However, while packing up, a sticky slime that looked different from the others appeared. He checks the stats and finds out that it is medicine slime. He is ecstatic at this discovery and thinks about what could have created this slime, then suddenly remembers that yesterday he accidentally spilled some antidote on the floor, and when he came back, it was all gone. He suspects that maybe the sticky slime drank it and evolved into a medicinal slime. He goes back to his house and brings out some more antidote in front of the sticky slimes, and as suspected, they drank all of it and evolved into the medicinal slimes. With their help, he created a bunch of different concoctions, and he was surprised to realize that not only can they produce antidotes and other medicine, but they can also produce a bunch of poisons. The next day, he decides to visit the church and have a conversation with the gods first, as he hasn't talked to them in a while. He goes inside the church and starts praying. Sure enough, after a delay, he is summoned to an ethereal place where he finds a strange man looking at him. He quickly understands that if this man is present here, he must be a god. The god introduces himself as the god of craft and craftsmanship. According to him, he has been observing Ryuma for a long time now and believes that he has a special talent for crafts. Ryuma thanks him and asks for the whereabouts of the other gods, but he replies that they are all in different worlds. He wanted to talk some more with the god, but he informs Ryuma that their time is up, and he returns back to his own world. He thanks the nun and heads back towards his shop. He greets everyone and asks Carla whether everything went well, and she reaffirmed that it did, and the new employees were able to learn a lot of important skills. He then quickly tells them that he has been thinking about security and shows them the glass panes that he created. Lee gets interested and asks him whether she could check its strength, and he nods in agreement. She gets the panel from him and hands it to her father, who holds it tightly for her. She gets into position and starts unloading a barrage of punches on it, but surprisingly it has no effect on the window. She contrives magic reinforces punches, but still they have no effect on the glass pane. He tells them he is going to install these panes all over the shop to protect them from intruders. Carla brings up a very important point, telling him that these panes would also prevent the staff from escaping in case of an emergency, and he agrees, deciding to only place these panes on some windows and leaving some windows with the normal glass. Carla again asks for a word in private with Ryuma, and asks him to think about expanding his business and branching it out in other towns, but he seems uncomfortable with this subject and tells her that he will think about it. He then goes over to the merchant and tells him that he wants to buy a bunch of glass vials in wholesale, as he wants to use them to keep medicine in them, which he might sell later. The merchant redirects him to the guild, where he finds the old lady again, who tells him that she will get him the vials that he wants and then asks about his business. Ryuma replies that his business has been going pretty well. She also ends up suggesting to him that he should branch out to other towns as soon as possible, and if he wants to borrow some money, she is willing to invest. He again gets uncomfortable when this topic is broached and asks for some time to think about it. The next day, Ryuma organizes a special crime prevention drill in which he acts as an intruder and teaches the girls how to deal with such situations. The same day, a gentleman from the beast-taming guild named Taylor arrives at his establishment and is astonished to see the skills and abilities of his slime friends. He inquires about them at length and tells Ryuma that he has the guild's full support, as he thinks that slimes are just as important as other beasts. The next day, while Ryuma was around the back, he overheard commotion in the front of the store and went to inspect. He sees that a rough-looking man is creating a big scene by accusing the shop of terrible service and ruining his clothes by tearing them. He starts getting very loud and intimidating to the receptionist, so Ryuma ends up intervening. He asks the man about his problems politely, but the man rudely tells him to piss off as he doesn't want to talk to a kid. Ryuma informs him that he is the manager of this establishment, and if he has any problems, he has to speak with him only. The man looks at him in disbelief, tells him that his clothes are all destroyed because of his laundry service, and throws the torn cloth on his face. Ryuma inspects the cloth very closely and realizes that it has been sliced by a knife and then torn apart by hands. Ryuma tells him that this is not the fault of his laundry service, and the evidence is clearly manufactured. To prove his point, he brings out his cleaner slimes and shows the customers how the slimes clean the clothes. He explains to them that the slimes don't have any kind of teeth or sharp objects in their mouths that could damage the cloth, so the damage is definitely manufactured. The man gets angry at this and tries to punch Ryuma, but Ryuma is an expert fighter and easily dodges the punch before taking him down. He then ties him up and calls the authorities, who take the man away. Carla expresses her concerns about these slanders, as it is the second time someone has tried to ruin her reputation. The most mysterious thing is that they don't even have any competitors, so why would someone want to ruin their reputation? All these incidents have been making him paranoid, so he decides to go to the min shafts to try and create a weapon for himself. He tries using the metal slime and tries several different techniques, but he can't seem to figure out a way to make a sword. At the end, he decides to just use a magic spear that he got after defeating a troll in the forests. He heads back for the day and turns in for sleep after having some dinner. The next day, when he arrives at the bamboo forest, he is greeted by Carla, who informs him that she has been doing some investigations of her own, and that she has found out that their establishment is being attacked because they have associated themselves with Mr. Taylor. According to her, a lot of people in the Tamer Guild are not happy because Taylor is treating the slimes like any other beast, and now they are trying to sully his name and anyone associated with him. In the evening, 3 researchers come into the establishment to meet Ryuma. All of them spend a considerable amount of time with the slimes and are extremely surprised by the amount of different types of slimes that he has. They ask him to tell them everything he knows about the slimes, as they have been trying to evolve their slimes, but they are not doing anything. Ryuma asks them about the food they are providing to the slimes, and they reply that they give whatever food is available to them. They hand it over to the slimes. Ryuma tells them that they are making a mistake and then demonstrates that every single slime changes according to the things that it eats, and if they give him just random food scraps, they are never going to grow. This surprised every single one of them, and their eyes started shining from excitement. They beg Ryuma to hire them as his employees and teach him more about slimes, and he agrees. After the day ends, he starts walking back towards his home, but on the way, he senses that he is being followed by at least 3 people. He quickly starts running and ducks in an alleyway, but to his surprise, he is attacked by one of the assailants. Thankfully, he easily dodges the attack and teleports on top of a building. He summons his limmer birds and quickly orders them to do some reconnaissance, so he can understand where his enemies are. Ryuma finds the 3 assailants and throws needles that were poisoned with an anesthetic agent at them. All of them fall into a deep sleep apart from their leader, who tries one last ditch attempt by attacking Ryuma with his hawk, but Ryuma's limmer birds deal with the hawk as well. He ties them up and hands them over to the police to deal with. The next day he goes over to meet with the guildmasters and is advised by them to lay low for a bit, as someone wants to hurt him and is sending goons after him again and again. Ryuma, however, has other plans and decides to deal with everything in his own way. From the next day, he starts hunting down these goons at night, beating them up and handing them over to the police. Some goons were so badly hurt that he had to heal them before turning them over, but the word that Ryuma is a vicious person who will beat the crap out of you if you try anything with him spread around like wildfire, and the assailants started hesitating. To protect the establishment, he also hired a bodyguard named Mr. Dulce and practiced alongside the 3 other girls at the reception to teach them how they should deal with an attacker at the establishment. He later goes on to meet with Karlev, who shows him a balance sheet of their growing sales, which finally convinces him to open another branch. He goes over to meet the old merchant lady, who gives him good recommendations of places he could go, and he chooses one of the new towns as the location for his second branch. The next day, he takes one last look at his establishment and thanks every one of his employees for being a part of it before leaving for a new adventure in a new city. He travels for a couple of days, which thankfully go without any further incidents, and finally reaches the town of Lenef. This town seems to be smaller than his, but more bustling with trade. The biggest company in Lenef is established at the center of the town, selling multiple goods and services at one place only. He goes near the shop to try and ask for the merchant named Piori, as the old merchant lady told him to find him, as he is the owner of this big company. While walking, he runs into a beast girl with yellow hair who asks him if she can be of any help. He tells her that he is looking for a man named Piori, which surprises the girl, and she replies that Piori is her father. Just at that very moment, a man approaches them from behind, and the girl introduces him as Piori, the owner of this corporation, and she introduces herself as Miyabi, her daughter. Ryuma introduces himself, and Piori quickly realizes who Ryuma is. He tells Miyabi about Ryuma's accomplishments and how he is opening the second branch of his business here, which totally surprises Miyabi, as she knows Ryuma seems to be even younger than her. Piori then takes Ryuma for a walk and explains to him how the town works. He also tells him that he has already taken care of all the bothersome paperwork, and all Ryuma has to do is sign some documents. He takes Ryuma to a fortress and tells him that this fortress is the headquarters of all the guilds present here. This surprises Ryuma, as he has never seen all the guilds work under the same building before, but Piori explains to him that in Lenef, every single guild works for the collective benefit of the city, and they are all connected by trade. The Adventurers Guild gets the raw materials, the Craftsman's Guild turns them into goods, the Merchants Guild finds buyers, and the Transport Guild transports all the items on a dragon's back. Ryuma is impressed to see such harmony between the guilds and can't wait to discover more about this city. Piori takes him again to the center of the town and shows him a building that he bought for Ryuma for his establishment. The building looks excellent for the laundry services, and Ryuma seems to like it a lot after the tour. Piyori also explains that the shop is across the road from his corporation, so Ryuma will get a lot of customers that way as well, and if he ever needs anything, all he needs to do is just ask. Ryuma thanks him and promises to repay the kindness, and she goes to Piyori's home that day to have dinner with him. During the dinner, Ryuma discloses that he also wants to join the Adventurers Guild in this town, and this surprises both Miyabi and Piyori. Ryuma explains that he is a part-time adventurer as well and has ascended to rank E in the past couple months. Miyabi looks troubled and explains to Ryuma that recently, a very strong monster has been roaming around on the outskirts of the city, which is making it very hard for the lower-rank adventurers to go out and complete quests. Ryuma says that he would still at least try his luck with the Adventurers Guild, and Piyori wishes him luck. The next day, he goes to the Adventurers Guild, and after registering as an adventurer, he's able to find an E-rank quest about collecting some herbs from the nearby forest. He goes out to the forest, and with the help of his slimes, he is able to collect more than enough herbs. He was about to turn back to return to the city when he hears commotion behind him, and he turns around to see two adventurers running away from the giant monster, named the Smash Boar. The two adventurers run past Ryuma, screaming at him to run away as well, but Ryuma stands his ground, ready to take the boar down. He takes out his bow and arrows and tries to shoot them at the boar, but the animal's hide is too thick, and his arrows are unable to penetrate it at all. Ryuma realizes that he will have to defeat the boar with his bare hands and gets ready to do so. The boar charges at him, but Ryuma quickly dodges his charge and kicks him back. The boar, however, isn't fazed by this and charges at Ryuma again, but this time Ryuma uses a magic-reinforced punch delivered straight to the face, which kills the boar instantly, saving the other two adventurers. The adventurers are shocked to see someone this young take down the wild boar. They thank him and tell him that one of their friends has been injured. Hearing this, Ryuma tells them to bring their friend to him, and they bring an injured girl with them. Ryuma quickly has a look at her injuries and realizes that a bunch of her bones are broken. He uses his healing magic alongside his healing slime to heal the woman, and she returns to consciousness. Ryuma also releases his bloody slime, which makes its way inside the boar and quickly drains all the blood to save the meat and its exquisite taste and texture. He then asks the three adventurers to accompany him to the Adventurers Guild because it is not allowed for a lower-ranking adventurer to kill a higher-ranking monster, but this time it was out of necessity, and he would need them to testify from his side. The adventurers quickly agree, and all of them make their way to the Adventurers Guild. Pidori is shocked to see the boar, and Miyabi also walks in, angry at Ryuma for doing such a dangerous thing. Just then, an official from the Adventurers Guild arrives and asks Ryuma about the reason he took down the boar, which is not legal to do so. Thankfully, the three adventurers testified from his side, and the matter is absolved as a case of self-defense. He thanks the adventurers, and they go their own way before Piyori tells Ryuma that he's going to ask his chefs to butcher the boar so that the meat doesn't spoil. When the chefs butcher the boar, they are surprised to see that the blood is already completely drained, and Ryuma explains that his bloody slime can extract every drop of blood from anything, which grabs Piyori's attention. And he starts telling Ryuma to sell him the slime as he also wants to drain his meat like that, and it will increase the price of the product by 2 times as much. Ryuma, however, refuses, telling him that he only has one slime and that if he gets more, he will give one to Piyori. That night, he cooks the boar at Piyori's place and makes a dish that he used to make on Earth. It turns out to be a massive success, and the next day, Piyori opens up a restaurant to sell that very dish. Ryuma is getting ready to finally open his establishment for business, and as expected, Carla arrives in Linaf, and she brings the 3 researchers and a bunch of new employees for him. Ryuma thanks her, and finally the next day, their establishment opens for business, and the word has gotten around very quickly. A lot of people start coming to his laundry, but thankfully, this time he knows how to operate a business and everything goes smoothly. After the day was over, he believes that his job here is done, and he leaves the command to Carla, telling her that he will be going back to his hometown. Carla tells him not to worry, and the next day he leaves the town. He reaches back and immediately goes over to meet the merchant from the guild, who explains to him about a market opening for magic items, which highly interests Ryuma. The next day he goes back to the bamboo forest, and Callum informs him that one of his cleaner slimes ended up eating charcoal, and now it is not cleaning the clothes nicely. Callum seems to be very sad about this incident, thinking that he ruined his slime, but Ryuma thanks him and informs him that the slime is about to evolve, and when they evolve, oftentimes they end up losing their properties and even changing their food habits. Callum seems to look a little relieved at this, and he thanks Ryuma for forgiving him. Ryuma tells him that he will have to act as a manager for a time period now, as Ryuma will be focusing on completing quests, as he wants to raise his rank and go back to the forest where he used to live. Callum is shocked to learn that Ryuma used to live in that forest, as it is rumored to be one of the most dangerous places in existence. Ryuma takes his leave and arrives at the Adventurers Guild, where he meets with the receptionists, who take him to a room to discuss things. Ryuma explains that he wants to raise his rank as quickly as possible to C rank, and that he wants to deal with some specific monsters as well. The receptionist quickly informs him that a lot of the monsters he has listed cannot be taken by him because his rank is too low, and he agrees, saying that he will deal with them as he keeps increasing in rank. For now, he requests that they provide him with a quest, which would gain him the most amount of experience in the shortest time period, and one of the receptionists quickly goes over to retrieve one of the quests and presents it to Ryuma. She explains that he will have to deliver the package as quickly as possible to a nearby town. Ryuma accepts the offer because he already wanted to go to that particular town because the merchant at the guild told him about the magic item market there. He arrives at the new town in record time and finds the shop where he has to deliver the package. An old man comes out from the back of the shop and greets him. The old man is ecstatic to find out that Ryuma has come here to deliver his package and thanks him non-stop. He quickly goes and gets some tea for Ryuma, and just then, the door opens and Serge the merchant walks in the room. He is surprised to see Ryuma, and the old man is also shocked to know that Serge knows Ryuma. Serge introduces Ryuma as one of the best businessmen in the entire country and tells the old man about his achievements. The old man seems to be very impressed and introduces himself as Denon. Serge tells Ryuma that Denon is a gifted inventor and he always works on inventing new gadgets and items. After talking for a bit, Denon takes both Serge and Ryuma to his workshop, where he shows them his new project, which to Ryuma's surprise is a modern car. Serge is very confused after looking at the car as he doesn't know what it does, but Denon tells him that once it is completed, they won't need to rely on horses to transport them from one place to another. Serge then notices that there is a carriage in the back of the workshop and he asks about it. Denon responds that he was going to repair it for someone. Serge is very shocked as Denon doesn't take any kind of repair work, no matter the money. Denon responds by saying that his grandson has turned 4 and seems to be a prodigy. He takes out a small mechanism and shows it to Ryuma and Serge. Denon informs him that his grandson made this on his own and even Ryuma is impressed by this. It is a gear system that can work with magic as an energy source. Denon tells them that he wants his grandson to go to the Royal Academy, but the tuition fee is way too high, so he is taking any job he can get to pay for his grandson's tuition. After getting out of the shop, Serge asks Ryuma about his plans further, to which Ryuma replies that he is going to find an inn and then browse around in the market the next day. Hearing this, Serge offers Ryuma the chance to take him to the inn he would be staying at, and the next day he can be Ryuma's guide to the market. Both of them check into an inn, and Ryuma goes to his room to tinker around with the mechanism that Denon gave him. Finally, the time for dinner arrives, and on the table, he produces a music box in front of Serge, who has no idea about the existence of such a thing. Ryuma informs him that he just tampered with the gears a bit and shows how the music comes out. Serge is very impressed by this and advises him to start making them look fancy, and producing more of them, as things like these are often sold at very high prices to the rich. The next day, Serge takes Ryuma to the market, where she roams around for a while looking for different magic items before stumbling upon Denon's shop. Serge goes up to him and tells him that he is here with a business proposal. Denon quickly takes Serge inside while Ryuma plays with Denon's grandson. He realizes that the little boy has no one to play with and must get bored every day. He opens his magical chest box and retrieves a bunch of small clothes and other things. He then arranges them in a certain manner and creates a game out of it. He teaches the child how to play the game, and he seems to enjoy it a lot. Later, Ryuma returns to his city to manage his responsibilities. He goes into the mine shafts and witnesses the charcoal slime finally evolve. He looks at its status and finds out that the slime has anti-odor properties and it can remove smell from anything. He works the entire night, and by the next day he has made a bunch of different solutions from the liquid that he extracted from the slime. He gives it to Callum and tells him to conduct some experiments for him while he goes back in the mineshaft. After he got out of the bamboo forest, he spotted 2 guys trying to mend their cart, which had broken down suddenly. Ryuma goes up to them and uses his sticky slime to mend their cart, and in return, he tells them to take one of the solutions from him and test the strength of the anti-odor properties on their garbage cart. Ryuma gets to know about an upcoming festival in his town, where a lot of people will be present from all over the country. He aspires to open a stall and sell some of his products to gauge what normal people think about them and to spread the name of his company. He goes into the mine shaft to experiment some more and ends up creating a bunch of handmade soap and later some with designs like that of a limmer bird, which he wishes to offer as a gift to Elia. Ryuma wants to talk more, but he is interrupted by Callum, who rushes up to him and informs him that he just got a letter from Carla, who wants you to rush to Lenath as soon as possible because the cleaner slimes have uncharacteristically multiplied in huge numbers. Ryuma quickly gets ready to leave, and by using his spatial magic, he reaches Lenath very quickly. He reaches his shop and is shocked to see it completely overrun by customers, which makes him really happy. He teleports inside the shop to see Carla standing confused, and she takes him into the back room, which has a bunch of cleaner slimes and the 3 researchers keeping an eye on them. Ryuma asks them for details, and they explain that the traffic of customers is very high in the town of Lenath compared to their hometown, and suddenly a bunch of slimes started multiplying, and now they have 75 new slimes to handle. Ryuma is excited at this news, and he quickly tames all of them before trying to decipher the reason behind it. They speculate that this may be due to the abundance of food for them because of the increased amount of clothes that they have to clean, and because they have space to grow, they multiplied very quickly. Carla lets out a sigh of relief when Ryuma tells him to relax as there is nothing to worry about. He bids them farewell and decides to head back, but before that, he ends up going to meet Piori, whom he runs into on the road near his shop, standing by a bunch of stinking barrels. Ryuma asks them what is happening, and he reveals that a couple of foreign traders visited the city recently, and Piori ended up buying fermented fish from them, but they are stinking so much that he doesn't know what to do with them. Ryuma quickly gets out his deodorant slime, and it absorbs all the smell from inside the barrel. He also gives Piori some extra deodorizing liquid to use when the effect wears off, and to thank him, Piori gives him 1 barrel of fermented fish. Ryuma happily comes back to his city, where he meets up with Serge, who has brought the first prototype of their music box. The music box looks very ornate, and Serge tells him that they have already perfected the design and are now going to produce a base amount of it to showcase at the upcoming Founders Festival. Ryuma is really happy about this and tells him that he also wants to open a bunch of stalls to showcase his items and even sell a bunch of food from different regions of this country, as his employees come from all over the country and some even from different countries. Ryuma decides to organize a small party before the festival so everyone can get to know each other better. At the party, everyone has to create some of their favorite dishes from their area or region. While they were having fun discussing food, the door opened and a white-haired man entered the room. He introduced himself as Penance. Ryuma quickly remembers his name as he has heard of the name of their band multiple times, and Penance is the leader of the band. He seems ecstatic to meet Ryuma and greets him very pleasantly. He explains that his band has been officially invited to perform at the festival, and he has heard a lot about Ryuma, so he wanted to meet him. Ryuma is pleased to know this and invites him and his entire band to the party tonight before excusing himself. He goes to the guild where he asks the receptionist if there are any quests he could take on that wouldn't take a lot of time to finish, as he still wants to gain levels as quickly as possible. The receptionist offers him a quest that requires finding a bunch of giant ants and their colonies in the grassland outside their city, which Ryuma gladly accepts. He quickly makes his way through the forest and releases his lemur birds to scout the area for him to find any signs of giant ants. The lemur birds can't find any ants, but they are able to spot a group of adventurers, and Ryuma seems to recognize them. He runs towards them and greets them with a warm hello. The adventurers turn out to be the same bunch of people who were helped by Ryuma when their garbage cart broke down. They exchange pleasantries, and the adventurers explain that they have gotten the quest of killing the ants, but they can't seem to find the nest of the ants. Ryuma chuckles and informs them that he has gotten the quest to find these ants, so if they work in harmony, they can both find and kill the ants, completing both their quests. The adventurers eagerly agree, and he grabs one of the iron slimes and changes it into a sword, much to everyone's surprise. He then commands the other slimes to move forward, making a chain. He explains to the others that the iron slimes are very good at detecting danger, and as he said this, suddenly the slimes stopped in their spot and a giant ant erupted from beneath the ground. Ryuma, however, is ready for the ant and makes quick work of it, slicing it in two with the help of his sword. The others also start finding a bunch of slimes, and by working together, they are thankfully able to bring down every single ant they can find before loading it up on their wagon and taking it back to the city. The adventurers thank him and tell him that if he ever needs anything, he could ask them, and they would be ready to help. Ryuma thinks for a bit before he tells them to follow him. He takes all of them back to his place where the party is going on. Callum greets Ryuma, but is shocked to see a bunch of unknown individuals with him. Ryuma tells him that he has brought them here because he thinks they could be temporary employees who could help set up the stalls during the festivals. Callum seems a bit apprehensive, but suddenly Dulce also comes out and he seems to know these adventurers. He explains that he often helps the people in the slum area, and that's why he knows all of them. Callum replies that if both Ryuma and Dulce have faith in them, he also believes them, and he invites him inside the party, where they have a bunch of good food and drink together, celebrating their success until now and getting ready for the day ahead. The next night, Ryuma and the workers work on coming up with a rough layout for the stall that they want to set up, but suddenly, Ryuma is called outside by the guild master. He goes to meet the guild master, who congratulates him on the success of his establishment so far and asks him whether he is willing to take up a quest that might pay a lot. Ryuma asks for details, and he replies that the decoration of the entire festival is going to be tree twigs, but they don't have any. Ryuma is surprised as trants are not very easy monsters to deal with, but the guild master replies that the architect that they have hired is very fancy and accomplished. He wants to make this festival perfect and only use tree twigs for it. He tells him that at the very least they require 200 tree twigs, which is a very high number. Ryuma thinks about the proposal for a bit, but he realizes that when he goes back to the forest where he used to live, he will have to face a bunch of trants and even stronger monsters, so this is a very good practice session, and he can even earn money and experience from it. He accepts the guild master's proposal, which delights the guild master as well, as they would have to transport a huge amount of dead trants back to the base and will need his spatial magic for that. The next day, he gets a debriefing from Mia and her group of adventurers. Asagi introduces Lipin to Ryuma and tells him that he is also a spatial magic user and very talented in his own right. The rest of the crew is the same, and Asagi, alongside Lipin, starts explaining about trants and how to deal with them. He explains that trants are tree monsters that look exactly like any other tree, and if you are not constantly on your feet and detecting magic, you cannot differentiate between normal trees and trants. So lesson number 1 is to always detect magic when going to hunt trants. The fastest way to kill them is to quickly chop off their face or chop off the area below their face, which will result in their immediate death. After the explanation was done, they all got in the wagon to depart. They finally arrive in the forest and everything looks normal to the naked eye. They all get out and draw their weapons, slowly moving into the forest. Lipin points out a tree and explains that he can sense a magical aura coming from inside it, and when Ryuma tries to detect magic, he can even sense the same aura coming from inside the tree. Mia and the leopard girl immediately lunged towards the tree, and sure enough, it turned out to be a treant and started using its branches to ward off the girls. Mia, however, is quick with the sword and is able to chop off the branches before chopping off the treant's face and killing it. Ryuma carefully observes the other hunters killing the treants and finally decides to step up, ending up successfully killing his first treant. With the help of the slimes and Lapin's excellent spatial magic, it quickly starts storing the dead treant, and after a while, they decide to take a break. While eating lunch on the table, Ryuma notices a flying slime and is extremely curious about it. Lipin informs him that he has seen them sometimes, but doesn't know much about them. Ryuma inquires about the possibility of catching it, and to his surprise, Lipin immediately uses his spatial magic and grabs it. He gives it to Ryuma as a token of goodwill, who quickly tames it and decides to do further research on it once he gets back. After the break is over, they decide to hunt some more treant, and on the way, they suddenly sense a very strong dark magic coming from one of the trees. Lipin recognizes it as the Grand Treant, which is much bigger and stronger than the rest. They engage it in combat, but are unable to do anything because the branches erupting from the ground and above are constantly stopping them from doing anything. Ryuma quickly creates a pavement in front of them so the branches cannot come from the ground and the rest start making their way towards it. They throw axes at the tree, but it has special corrosive properties that rust the iron and make it useless. Ryuma suddenly remembers something and produces an axe made of stainless steel. He throws it at the tree, who tries to corrode it but fails. Ryuma quickly shouts at the others to distract the tree and hands them a bunch of weapons made of stainless steel, while he starts making a giant morning star which he uses to attack the giant tree, killing it. To celebrate the success of their mission, they have a feast in the evening and turn in for the night to return home the next day. The next day, they start traveling back to the town, and Ryuma seems to be a little bit worried because he left all the preparation work for the employees of his shop, even though the festival they should get holidays. Mia notices it and tells him that he can go to his place and the rest of them will deliver the traders and deal with the guild. Ryuma refuses at first, telling her that he will go with them, but after they convince him that they will be fine, he ends up going back to his place where he is shocked to see how big his stall is becoming. He asks Dulce about the progress, and he replies that the employees of Penance are extremely efficient at this stuff, and they have already created their stage in 2 days, and not only that, they have also helped with the preparation of their stall. This surprised Ryuma, as he couldn't even imagine someone doing this much work in only 2 days. He goes back inside to meet Callum, who presents him with the final dishes that have been chosen to be displayed in the festival, and Ryuma is very happy with the selection. But he tells them that he wants to add another dish, and ends up preparing some tea for all of them. It was an instant hit, and they all agree that it should be displayed at the festival. He goes outside and runs into Serge, who tells him that the prototype is ready and shows it to Ryuma. Ryuma plays the music box, and a soft and beautiful sound erupts from it, flowing with perfect melody and an amazing sound. Ryuma seems to be very happy with the finished product and congratulates Serge on it. The next day, he goes out near the mine shaft and starts playing around with the flying slime and realizes that they have the ability to quickly multiply to a bunch of slimes and can come back together into one. While playing with them, suddenly a huge dragon flies over him and he looks up to notice Piori riding it. He quickly follows them and greets Piori, who is surprised to see Ryuma waiting as he wanted to surprise Ryuma by visiting him randomly. He explains that a person from his town wanted an urgent shipment of some products and that's why he came here to deliver it. Before he could explain, however, Asagi arrives at the scene with a cart and tells them that he was the one who ordered the package and it contains a bunch of miso and soy sauce, which he wants to sell at the festival. He then takes them back to his place where he creates some tempura and rice balls for them to taste, and everyone agrees that it tastes amazing. After lunch, they bid farewell to each other and promise to visit each other's stalls before moving back to their respective places to get a good night's sleep before tomorrow's festival. Finally, the day of the festival arrives and everyone is very excited about it. Ryuma first goes over to have a look at Maya and Asagi's stall and sees that they are getting ready to start selling their miso soup and rice balls to everyone. He then moves forward and spots Penance in front of the stall, playing a harp. And to Ryuma's surprise, it turns out that Penance is trying to promote Ryuma's music box, which Serge has added a new feature to. Now the music box can replicate any music that it hears, and it seems to be a huge success. Serge replies that the music box is so popular that their base amount has already been sold, and they have already sent more for mass production. Ryuma then moves towards his stall and is surprised to see it filled with customers, ordering tea and other food. He quickly gets inside and starts helping them make and serve food. The tea and the vegetable stir-fries seem to be especially well received, and to make more stir-fry quickly, Ryuma uses his metal slime to transform it into a vegetable shredder, which his employees start using to shred all the vegetables extremely quickly. He finally decides to take a break and goes ahead to explore the festivities. He stumbles upon Maya's shop again and buys a bunch of rice balls and some miso soup. The taste is delicious, and both Mia and Asagi seem to be happy about their stall. While he was talking to them, he overheard a kid crying on the side and went over to inspect. It turns out that the kid got lost and is unable to locate his mother. Ryuma quickly reassures the kid that they will find his mother, which stops the crying, and then they roam around the entire festival looking for his mom. Finally, he finds a police station and goes inside to report the missing child, but is surprised to see the kid's mom already there, crying her eyes out. She hugs her kid as soon as she sees him, and both the kid and the mother start crying tears of joy. They both thank Ryuma and bid their farewells. Finally, the night falls and the time for the performance arrives. First, the crew of Penance performs a beautiful sword dance, after which they all take a short break and have something to eat. While they were eating, Asagi remembered that Ryuma played an instrument that they had never seen before during the time when he was trying to capture the lemur birds, and Ryuma realized that they were talking about his guitar. They beg him to play the guitar, and he agrees. He also participates in the sword dance show and then plays his guitar, which enchants the entire audience with his beautiful and exotic melody. Finally, the festivities get over and Ryuma returns back home to get some sleep.